Brady. Have you ever imagined yourself making that game-winning shot, or, you know, just making that score that was very hard to get, but you did it and now your team is so proud of you? Have you ever dreamed of it so vividly that it almost seemed real? If you have, then what you're actually doing is you're using imagery. So, imagery, as you can see here on my beautiful whiteboard that's sitting on the back of my van, imagery is using your senses to create a picture that is so vivid and so real, it's like you're recreating the experience but in your mind. Now, using imagery, there's many different ways to use it, there's many different theories out using it. One of the biggest and I would say easiest ways to use it is using the acronym PETLEP. PETLEP describes a functional hypothesis about using it, and it has 7 different letters, obviously 7 different letters for 7 different components to using the theory. So physical, which is all the sensations you're feeling, making sure that all those sensations are exactly the same as you would see. Then you have environment. Your imagined environment has to be the exact same as what you will be experiencing when you go into your competition. The task. So when you're performing your task in your head, you need to be thinking about the same thoughts, the same feelings, the same emotions, all of that, as what you'll be experiencing when you're in sport. Otherwise, it's not going to be as effective. Next up, we have timing. So we have the same emphasis on how long stuff is going to take. An example would be a baseball player pitching a ball. That's used in our textbook. How long is it going to take the ball to reach the bat? That is going to be a big aspect on timing, and you have the same thoughts about timing. Learning. So when it comes to the different stages of learning, there's many different stages you can be in while you're performing your sport. A higher level athlete will be at a higher level of learning, so you want to think in the same stage level as what you are going to be performing at. Next up, we have emotion. So referring back to task up here, you do want to have the exact same emotions that you're going to be feeling while you are performing your sport. Finally, we have the perspective component. Now, the perspective component, as you can see down here, it refers to both the internal or the external experiences that you will have. So whether you're doing internal imagery, that is when you are imaging, when you're using your mind and you're using your imagination to picture from in your own body. You're seeing out of your own 2 eyes what you'll exactly see on game day. However, external is when you're doing your imagery, you're seeing yourself from a distance, as if, like bird's eye view, or as if you are the recorder, like the camcorder. You're watching yourself perform. So that is how you use PETLEP, plus what internal and external imagery is. Next up, there are 4 W's of using applied sport imagery. The when, which is when are you using that imagery? Using it before you go to competition, during, or after? Where are you using your imagery? Are you at home? Are you at the field already? Are you in the gym? We have the what, which is the content. We're going to come back to the what. And we have the why, which is the purpose or the function behind using imagery. Now, going back to what, we have the content that you are imagining. Now, the what, that is what you are imagining. And then you have aspects. You have different aspects here. There's 6. You have your sessions, which can be broken into sub-aspects of duration and frequency. You have your effectiveness, your nature of imagery, which can be broken into positive, negative, or accuracy, which we'll come back to. We have the surroundings. We have your type of imagery, which can be broken into visual, kinesthetic, auditory, or olfactory. And you have your controllability, When you go back to visual learning, you can see again we have that internal and external thoughts of imagery. These are all what factor into the what behind imagery, like everything that you are visualizing. Now, going back to the nature of imagery, we have positive imagery versus negative imagery. Positive imagery, that is when you are envisioning yourself succeed, you're seeing yourself make that shot, you're using all that positive energy. Negative imagery is when you're thinking, oh God, what happens if I miss? I can't miss. And you just only think negatively. It in turn can work, however, personally, whenever I use that type of imagery, it never works. Alrighty, so that's it for what I have on the board. Now, I use imagery in my everyday life in sport. So I'm actually going to be moving my camera here, and I'm going to be doing a quick little demo of myself using imagery, because I use imagery a lot in my own career in softball, and it has proven to be very effective for me. Sorry, I forgot to grab one thing. Okay, I'm on my way back over now. So, when you're using imagery, for context's sake, I'm a baseball player. I played baseball for 15 years, and imagery is something that I use in my everyday career. It is what I do before I go up for every single at-bat. I always use imagery. So when you are using imagery, for example, I'm just gonna move my camera here. When you're using imagery, what I will always do is I will always use my imagery in the dugout before I go up to bat. So I'll always sit in the dugout, always kind of close my eyes and have my own thoughts to myself for a couple minutes. I always think about, I never think about what happened last at bat, because if it was negative, then again, that goes back into that negative imagery that we talked about just a few minutes ago. Then I always will be the person that thinks about everything in every single step. So I'm even going to show it to you over here. I have my ball, my tee. This is where I would always hit. So I always sit here and I envision myself going up into the batter's box. I kind of always step in. I kind of brush my feet around both ways. I take one foot out and I always bend down and I write in the sand. This is simply another thing that has to do with imagery. I always have to envision every single little thing I do. So then I come back in the box, I kind of sway myself around, and then I finally move myself up, and I point my fingers forward every time I go up to bat. Now, whenever I do this, I am always kind of gearing myself up, and what I'm doing, I'm visualizing myself. I'm now looking at the pitcher. I'm making direct eye contact with her, whether she likes it or not, and I'm looking to see where the ball is. It's currently sitting in her glove. She's kind of fiddling around with it as she looks at her catcher, who is behind me. Soon I see her move her hands to her side, where she will start to begin her pitch. And at this point, as soon as I see her make that movement, I shift all my weight to my back foot, and I keep my bat just right on my back shoulder until I see her ready. As soon as I see the movement of her hand up and coming back down, I lift my arms up. I still keep that balance in my back leg, as all my weight is currently back here. Then as soon as I see that ball release from her hand, I swing. I feel that movement as the ball comes towards me, and I'm bringing my bat forward, making that contact. Now, as you saw there, I had my eyes closed for that the entire time. This is simply for the fact that I am sitting there watching that ball come in, and I'm watching my bat make that contact as I hit it. Using my imagery as well, I'm also envisioning everything else that's going on around me. Where'd that ball go? I'm envisioning it went to center field. Where's everyone else? Well, maybe I've got runners on. So if I've got runners on, how far am I going to go? How fast am I going to go? that also plays into effect. What am I hearing around me? Around me, I hear people screaming, yelling for me to run. I am hearing that crack of the bat as the ball is hit again. So while I'm doing all this, that ball is gone. And again, here, I watch, hands back. That one was not very good. I slipped at the end. What happens if you make a mistake when you go up to bat? Oh well. So that is me using imagery. It's something I do every game I play, every at bat I go up to. And so that's why I thought it would be a good thing for me to talk about. I know it got a little bit weird at the beginning and a little bit weird in the middle where I didn't have my bat yet. But again, too, that's another thing actually. I use this bat all the time, so I can see it looks a little bit damaged, but it's the feeling of the bat in your hands too. Can you feel that grip? Can you hear that sound that your hands make when you're like holding the grip? That's another big part of it all too, is just everything that you're feeling, everything around you. How do you see it all playing out? And yeah, that is me talking about imagery. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for joining me on this very, very cold December day as I sit in my driveway.